Hi there, Isha here, and welcome on board here at Higher Life TV, where I take concepts that are considered esoteric, new agey, and spiritual, and help you see how you can apply these as practical tools to greatly improve the quality of your life, or really to become more empowered in the way that you engage with your life. Really, at the Higher Life Academy, which Higher Life TV is the official education channel, the focus is about becoming empowered. And empowered means you're living your life from your most authentic self, often known or called the true self or the whole self. And in today's episode, I want to dive a little deeper into what the whole self is. Other ways that this has been termed is the integrated self. It could be called embodiment, the authentic self, or essentially the true self. And what I love about the true self or the whole self is the language really speaks to the clarity that this concept provides us with. I have been working as a transformational life coach for around 15 years, and that's where a lot of the work that I share here was formulated or derived by working with people day in and day out, helping them to understand how they can engage with their life in a way that would create better results. And most of the time, the results they were looking for was to feel differently, to feel more at ease, more confident, more fulfilled, more satisfied, to reduce conflict with themselves, inside themselves, or with other people, to make better choices or more empowered choices that were not fearful, that were not driven by a fear. And so I learned a lot about what disempowers us as human beings and what empowers us, what it means to live an empowered life. And I think when I started out in transformational life coaching, I was a little blind, or I had a misunderstanding of a lot of this work. I didn't grow up in a spiritual or religious environment. I had very little awareness around spirituality as part of the human experience. I really saw it as something esoteric or saintly, or we all want to live like a saint, then you get into religion. It didn't seem real to me. Spirituality didn't seem to offer a very real pathway. But what I've come to understand is spirituality is such an important education piece in how it is to live as an empowered human being. Because what it's really speaking to when we break down these concepts is inner resourcefulness, inner tools that we have as a species, as all human beings have them. We have a capacity for empathy. We have a capacity for compassion, for gratitude, for insight. We have a capacity for openness, willingness, courage, curiosity. These are all inner ways of being, or ways of being that we can cultivate as human beings that create results in the world that reduce stress, reduce conflict, that help us be more at ease with the uneasiness that comes from being alive as a human being in a physical body, in a physical world which is unpredictable. We have these inner resources that are available to us that can help us live within our lives in an empowered way without having to control the conditions. But as a survival mechanism, we also have within us a very animalistic survival intelligence, which is all about, we're in a physical plane, in a physical body, we need to stay alive, we need to survive. That's what it was like for the first humans. We need to create fire, we need to fight the enemy, we need to guard out. There was that real energy of distrust. And when you're born into this physical world, you have no idea what's out there, and you don't trust anything. You only trust it once you've become familiar with it, once you've been out in the world for long enough and you've learned to navigate it. So our primary experiences as a species was in this real competitive, distrusting fear of our death, fear of not surviving experience. So we have these two distinctive parts of ourselves as a being, right? We have the survival tendencies, and we have these higher tendencies, these capacities to rise above our fears and not to be driven by this basic nature. It's a sophisticated nature which sees the bigger picture, which understands, well, we're not really in a survival environment anymore, at least if you're in the middle class. Most of our are living, there's a huge part of the human population that is whose survival needs have been met. They don't fear for their safety every single day. And there is a significant amount of human beings that are still living at that survival tendency and that survival experience. It's very real. But there's a large part of the human population that is not, but they're still going about in their daily life from this survival mindset, and they're acting it out, being distrusting, engaging in conflict, fighting for resources, thinking there is scarcity, and it just keeps recreating a very unpleasant world for all of us to share, a world in which only a few people benefit at the expense of the whole. And that is, there are clear signals of that out there in the world. There is environmental degradation, there is breakdowns in compassionate driven communities, there is fatigue, depression, an increase in mental unwellness or uneasiness. We're very uneasy. Human beings are very uneasy. We're uneasy in our physical environment, we're uneasy in our bodies, we're uneasy in our relationships. So there's a real need to bring more ease, more openness, more peace into our experience. And I think there is a collective understanding that that's necessary, that we need to have a better relationship with our environment. We need to work in harmony with ourselves and with life. And we need to learn how to do that. So there are these higher tendencies or higher inner resources that we have that allow us to do that, that facilitate that. And there are these lower survival tendencies that just want to keep us alive. And what we are doing when we're talking about the true self is we're being truthful with ourselves, that we have both those patterns running through us. We have the survival-driven patterns, the fear-driven patterns, and we have the higher realm patterns, the patterns of wholeness, of peace, of completeness, of harmony, of love, right? And in the true self, the integrated self, the whole self, we have drawn those energies down, and they are meeting the lower tendencies which we are pulling up, and they meet in the middle, so that that higher intelligence can meet the lower intelligence, can recognize it for what it is. It's a safety mechanism, a protection mechanism. It was protecting us when we didn't have access to these higher realms. And it's saying, it's okay. We don't need to operate like that anymore. The middle class, the middle way. There is a growing middle class because in the middle, our survival needs have been taken care of. We are affluent enough that we can choose to use our energy in a very conscious way to create a new order in which all human beings thrive, all life thrives, right? That's all happening in the middle. So we're drawing those two aspects closer together, and they meet and they bond and they form a relationship and they become intimate with each other. They accept each other as equal parts of the self, and then they mesh and they synthesize. And in that we have the whole self, our whole authentic true nature becomes available to us, because we're no longer trying to escape the lower, deny, fix, improve the lower, become the higher, only want to become high and be good and pious and saintly. They're extremes. Human is not designed to live in the extremes. We're designed to bring those two parts of ourselves together, to integrate them and to live our lives from the power that that integration makes available to us. So the whole self is the high and the low as one. The higher intelligence and the survival intelligence meeting and communing and creating a third intelligence, which is called systemic. Systemic intelligence is when we understand that there is a collective, a higher order, but we have an individual part to play within it. And as the individual, we experience everything that is in the whole. And therefore, we can work on ourselves to create a higher version of the whole, or a more healed, high functioning, empowered whole. If I choose to become empowered by working with the lower tendencies, finding compassion for them and reassuring them and soothing them so they're no longer active in me, they're no longer creating problems in my life. And I do that by calling upon this natural inner resourcefulness I have to be compassionate and tender and insightful and wise. When I'm doing that within myself as a personal in the personal, in my individual life, I'm also doing it for the whole. And that's the empowerment piece. This is empowering, bringing those two parts together, integrating them. It's the perfect union. It is marriage. It is that sense of completeness that we are always looking for in our romantic relationships or in our paternal relationships, in our families. And it can never, ever meet that need because it is internal. That perfect marriage, that perfect love, that unconditional love, it happens between the higher and lower realms. It is not between humans. It can be manifested out and create tribes and containers and spaces where everybody feels it, a sense of ecstasy, but it is not a part of ourself that can be completed by another person. So this work is amazing. Once you fully step into it and become your whole self, you're no longer using your energy to meet these emotional needs, to be recognized and loved and cared for because you have done the work yourself. And living your life in an empowered way, it's highly creative. It's intimate. You're intimate with other people and with yourself. It's enriching. You enjoy your aloneness. You enjoy being part of a greater tribe. It just opens up a whole new realm. It is a new order. And we are all part of creating that new order. And it begins with owning your true self, doing the work to become whole and authentic. So if this sounds exciting to you, if you're a soul adventurer like me, if being whole and authentic has always been a key driver in your life, I highly recommend checking out our courses, The Empowered Way, the Awaken the Genius Within, and Life Alchemy at higherlifeacademy.com. So that's www.higherlifeacademy.com, or check out more of our episodes here. I'll keep posting and sharing these insights as they become available to me. They often land, or I'm working with clients and I realize that this is really valuable concept that should be shared out there in the world. So until next time, take care and love life.